Morning, chaps. It's that time again. I was sitting here in the office this morning, taking the opportunity by myself to smoke some new tobacco that came through the post to me in a trade with a fellow pipist. And I thought, do you know what? I think I should do a smoke and a joke, because the last one, as you may have noticed, was rather brief. In fact, my perambulations were cut rather short by an uninvited guest. I thought it was still amusing enough to post anyway, although it was only a brief 15 or 20 seconds. And I hoped that I could use that to fly in the face of everybody who suggested to me that potentially my ramblings are far too protracted. There, I've said it. Now, obviously, when preparing to do something like a smoke and a joke, one has to think of all of the possibilities, all of the different stories that there are out there on the world market, and try and narrow it down to something which I hope will amuse you. Now, at the weekend, I stayed at a friend's house, and they had various wildlife. They had some goats and some chickens, and there was the odd duck or two, which reminded me very neatly of a medley of stories that I thought maybe I could share with you. I'm going to call this one the cluster duck, and there's a reason behind that. First of all, I'm not going to tell you the one about the duck that was about to cross the road, and the chicken came running up to him and said, "Don't do that." And the duck said, "Why not?" And he said, "Because you'll never hear the end of it." I'm definitely not going to do that one. I was thinking I may well tell you the one about Mr. and Mrs. Duck, actually, Mr. and Mrs. Duck, who had just got married, and they were on honeymoon. And they'd booked themselves into a rather nice hotel with a lake view, obviously. And they'd been out for a rather pleasant meal, and they'd waddled off back to their room with a view to having a little bit of How's Your Father, and celebrate the day's nuptials, if you will. Anyway, they've had a bit of a flap around in the bath together, and feeling a little bit fruity, Mrs. Duck said to Mr. Duck, "How do you feel about a little bit then?" And he said, "Well, it'd be very nice, actually, thank you very much. I'm quite excited about this." She said, "Did you bring any condoms?" Mr. Duck says, "Well, then I thought you were in charge of the condoms." Mrs. Duck said, No. She said, "You've always been in charge of the condoms." And Mr. Duck said, "Oh, bugger." He said, "No, I didn't bring any." And Mrs. Duck said, "Well, I didn't either." She said, "Well, what are we going to do?" Mr. Duck said, "Tell you what." He said, "I'll go down and I'll ask at reception." He said, "It'll be a bit embarrassing, but I'll just go down and ask at reception." So Mr. Duck says, "Okay." So while you do that, I'll lay here and preen, or maybe preen. And so she luxuriated on, incidentally, and by quirk of pure coincidence, it was an eiderdown quilt, but that was something completely different. I hadn't meant to mention that. Anyway, so she was laying there on the it's almost cannibalistic, really, isn't it? She's laying there on the large duck-down-filled quilt, preening her own feathers and waiting for her husband to deal with the condom situation. So Mr. Duck wrapped a towel around his waist, and obviously you've got to present some kind of decorum in situations like this, and he waddled off downstairs to reception. So he pops up at the reception desk, and the receptionist says to him, "Hello, Mr. Duck, how are you?" And Mr. Duck said, "I'm very well, thank you." And the receptionist said, "And how's your room?" And Mr. Duck said, "No, it's lovely, actually, particularly like the lake view. It's very pleasant." He said, and the receptionist said, "How can I help, Mr. Duck?" And Mr. Duck said, "Well, it's a bit embarrassing, actually." He said, "Neither my wife or I have any condoms, and we wondered whether it's something that you could provide for us here as part of the sort of whole hotel experience." And the receptionist said, "Oh, but of course, Mr. Duck, that's absolutely no problem at all." He said, "Just hold on 1 second." And he reaches into a drawer and he pulls out a pack of condoms and he hands them to Mr. Duck and he says, "There you are, sir." He said, "Would you like me to put them on your bill?" And Mr. Duck said, "You think I'm some kind of pervert or something?" Anyway, that was the punchline. That wasn't the one I was going to tell you. I was going to tell you about the 3 Ducks that walked into a pub. Well, they waddled in, really. They waddled up to the bar, and the first Duck says to the barman, "Have a pint of lager, please." And the barman says, "Of course you can." He said, "Can I just say, before I pour you a pint of lager," he said, you're a speaking duck." He said, "You just spoke to me." And the duck said, "Yes, that's right." He said, "There's me, my 2 friends here." He said, we've been outside today, just really messing around, playing around." And the barman said, "Oh, that's tremendous." He said, "What's your name?" He said, "Well, my name is Huey, actually." That's the first duck. And the bum said, "Oh, Huey." He said, "So you say you've been messing around. What have you been?" He said, "Well, I've just been in and out of puddles, really, all day." And the bum said, "Oh, okay." And he pointed to the second duck and he said, "Well, Huey," he said, "what's your name? What's your name?" And the second duck said, "I'm Dewey." And the barman said, "Oh, Dewey." He said, "Oh, okay, of course, Huey." He said, "What have you been doing today?" He said, "Well, I'm much the same, so I've been in and out of puddles all day." And the barman said, the third duck, and he said, "Huey," he said, "You must be Louie." And the third duck, in a very feminine voice, said, "No, my name is Puddles." Very rude, very rude. You see, there's sexual connotations there and all sorts of stuff going on. But never mind. I'm building up to tell you the joke that I meant to tell you to start with, which was the duck that walks into a pub. There's a lot of this. To be fair, I have been in a pub called the Dog and Duck, and actually I've twice or 3 times, and on none of those occasions did I see a duck. I did see a couple of dogs in one of the pubs. I was going to have them under the Trade Descriptions Act, but to be honest with you, I don't think I'd have been able to make it stand up in the court of law. Anyway, this particular pub, can't remember what it was called, but a duck waddles in, and he hops up onto the bar stool, and the barman says to him, "Hello," and the duck says, "Hello there." And the barman went, "Oh, bloody hell, you just spoke to us. It's talking ducks again. It's incredible." I don't know where they are. I never, ever, ever come across a talking duck. I just tell of them, you see. Anyway, so the barman said, "That's amazing." He said, you talk?" And the duck said, "Yeah, and? What's your point?" And the barman said, "It's not normal." And the duck said, "Well, it is for me." The barman said, "Right, okay, how can I help?" And the duck said, "I'll have a pint of lager, please." It's funny they all drink lager as well, very strange. Anyway, he said, "I'll have a pint of lager, please." So the barman starts pouring in a pint of lager, and he's pouring the pint, and he says, "So I haven't seen you around these parts before." He said, "What are you doing there?" And the duck said, "I work on the building site up the road." And the barman went, right, okay then. Interesting. Anyway, so he pours the pint, gives the pint to the duck. Duck says, "Thank you very much," reaches under his feathers, pulls out a couple of quid, pays the barman, hops down with the pint, goes over and sits on the table in the corner and finishes his pint and says, "Thank you very much," and out the door he waddles. Anyway, about half an hour later, chap walks into the pub. Barman says, "Hi, how can I help?" And the chap says, "I'll pint of bitter, please." And the barman says, "Certainly, sir." And he starts to pour in the pint of bitter. He said, "I haven't seen you around here before." He said, "Are you visiting the area?" And the chap said, "Yeah, I am actually." He said, "I'm ringmaster of the local circus that's being set up over in the playing fields." And the barman said, "Bloody hell." He said, "This could be your lucky day." The ringmaster says, "What's that then?" And the barman says, he said, "You're not going to believe this." He said, "But half an hour ago," he said, "we only had a duck that came in." And the ringmaster said, "A duck?" And he said, "No, that's not the interesting part." He said, "The fact is, the duck could speak." The ringmaster said, "Really?" He said, "I tell you, no word of a lie." He said, "It's a talking duck." And the ringmaster said, "That's incredible." He said, "I can make a fortune out of him." He said, "It'd be like the star act at the circus." And the barman said, "To be honest with you, that's exactly what I was thinking." He said, "Listen, give me your number." He said, "If he comes back in again, I'll mention it to him and I'll point him in your direction." The ringmaster said, "Would you?" He said, "I'd be thrilled if you do that." He said, "Seriously, we could make a fortune. We could tour the world with this." And the barman said, "Absolutely, it's no problem at all." So anyway, the ringmaster finishes his pint of bitter and off he goes. And the barman carries on with his day's work. Anyway, next day he's opening up and he's just polishing the pumps. And lo and behold, door opens, in waddles a duck. And the duck wanders up and he jumps up onto the chair and he says, "Hello, mate." And the barman's used to it by now. The barman says, "Hello there, sir, how are you?" And the duck said, "Great, actually." So desperate for a pint. He said, I'll have a pint of lager again, please." And the bum says, absolutely. He said, no problem at all. He said, listen. He said, I think this is going to be your lucky day. And the duck said, really? Why is that? And the barman said, well, he said, you're never going to believe this. He said, but after you came in yesterday, he said, chap came in and he only is the ringmaster of a circus that's pitched up on the playing field. And the duck went, right, okay. And why is that my lucky day? Got free tickets or something? And the bum said, no. He said, but I think that you could probably get a job with him. And I told him that I'd put you in touch with him. And the duck said, me, working at a circus? And the bum said, well, it'd be fantastic for you. If you'd travel the world, he said, you'd make a fortune. The duck said, really? He said, what the fuck do you want a carpenter for? There you go. That was it. Probably not worth it. Thank you ever so much for listening. And whack, whack.